Hey guys, how are we doing? So we're back at another video from Swag Kage. Now this one seems really interesting. This is How Strong is Kakashi, but pre-time skip. So this is going to be part 1 of the Naruto story. I think it's going to be pretty interesting because it was pretty damn powerful anyway. Like, it was pretty beast. Like, his stuff against Zabuza was cool. He, I mean, it did do him over, but he survived Itachi's Tsukuyomi. And think what else? It just, yeah, he's had he's seen so many techniques and that. He was in the Ambu when he was young, graduated early like Itachi. Yeah, let's see what Itachi. Let's see what Swagkage has to say on this.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Swag Kage here, and welcome to today's video. So obviously we're going to be talking about Kakashi, and if you're familiar with these videos, you don't need to be told this, but I'm not going to be power scaling him here, at least not necessarily. Now that doesn't mean I won't be talking about how strong he is, I definitely will, but I'm not going to be using like real-world science to get any of my points across, and I'm also not going to be comparing him to
mathematical like Seth.
Like with my other videos, this is going to be a pretty basic examination of his feats and accomplishments throughout part 1, with a pretty heavy focus on certain narrative factors and author intent. Now, normally I don't explain all of this. I imagine everybody gets it a couple minutes after starting one of these videos, but the reason I decided to bring it all up here is because talking about Kakashi with a structure like this is kind of difficult. And that's because Kishimoto chooses to handle him, at least in terms of how strong he is, in a very weird way. When we're first introduced to him, it's pretty clearly implied that he is supposed to be a reference point for what to expect from other Jonin going forward. Since he and Zabuza are the first Jonin we're ever introduced to, the audience is given the early impression that this is what most other Jonin are going to be like in terms of ability and power as well. And that's not to say Kakashi was implied to be weak at the beginning of the series or anything. No, it was the complete opposite. See, towards the beginning of Naruto's run, specifically in the Land of Waves arc, Jonin were treated as a much bigger deal than they were towards the end of the series.
That's
a short monologue from Zabuza conveys the idea that Jonin are all these crazy, elite, super ninja. But then, once you get to the end of the series, even being Kage level isn't a big deal, so like Jonin are basically complete fodder. But somehow Kakashi manages to stay relevant all the way until the end of the series, despite all of this power creep. And it's strange because we don't see him go through any major growth milestones. Like, he doesn't do anything similar to learning the Rasengan, acquiring a curse mark, taming the Nine Tails, or whatever, things that we are used to seeing as a clear representation that a character has just gotten stronger. Aside from his acquisition of the Mangekyo Sharingan, nothing like this happens with Kakashi over the course of the series. He just gets more powerful as time goes on.
Looks Taku has
really
touched upon this in an interesting video,
where he's just so much weaker than he is in Shippuden with no explanation at all. But by saying that, I think I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so let me back it up a bit and finally get started with the analysis. So part 1 doesn't give me a whole lot to work with. He only takes part in 3 major fights pre-time skip, those being his 2 fights against Zabuza and his fight against Itachi. Now that last one isn't super informative because it's pretty quick, and Kakashi also loses very badly, so most of what we learn about what he's capable of comes from the Land of Waves arc. Now, like I was saying earlier, when Kishimoto first started writing the series, it seemed like he had a different power ceiling in mind for it. He wanted things to be a lot more scaled back.
I don't think the story was meant to go on as long as it did.
So, as a result of that, in this arc, Kakashi seems pretty scaled back as well. And I don't just mean a little bit scaled back either. It's pretty significant, actually. Compared to later versions of himself, this Kakashi isn't impressive at all. Like, for example, he ends up bedridden for an entire week after using the Sharingan for, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes. It's the length of 3 chapters, so that's probably a safe estimate. You could maybe argue that it was longer than that, like 15 minutes or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. I think everybody can agree that it wasn't an extensive amount of time.
It's still some time,
everybody can also agree that this kind of
just
minimum Sharingan use being enough to take Kakashi out of commission for a week is pretty bad. Now, if the Sharingan was like really overpowered or something, this would make total sense, but it's not like it's enough to put him way far and above Zabuza or anything like that. The 2 of them are pretty close to being evenly matched, with Kakashi having a slight advantage, and of course I know that in their first encounter, Kakashi completely overwhelmed Zabuza at the end of the fight, but this was only after he received assistance from Naruto and Sasuke. Had they not helped him escape Zabuza's water prison, he probably would have lost the fight. And so, especially if we take into consideration mention how well Zabuza was doing against Kakashi during their second fight on the Great Naruto Bridge, I think all of that is definitely enough to offset the fact that Zabuza got completely clowned on by all of Kakashi's Sharingan shenanigans. I think this is especially true because it's fairly easy to argue that the only reason Kakashi's Sharingan was so effective against Zabuza at all was because the guy was probably pretty flustered that he'd just been outsmarted by two Genin. Now, I know some of you may think I'm reaching a little bit. It does sound kind of out there to say that Zabuza only lost the fight because Naruto and Sasuke made him mad, but just hear me out for a bit. I want you to imagine that you are Zabuza, and you have just captured the legendary copy ninja Kakashi Hatake using the water prison. There are many reasons why this is good. Like, first of all, you're probably really proud of yourself. It's quite an accomplishment after all. And on top of that, Kakashi's also listed in the bingo book, so he may have a really big bounty on his head. So in addition to the money that you're going to get for killing Kakashi, you're also about to get paid a bunch, because now that he's been dealt with, the only people standing in the way of you killing the bridge builder that you were hired to assassinate are three little itty-bitty baby Genin ninjas. So everything's going pretty well for you. You can't see any problems coming up, because after all, the kids don't seem capable of causing even the slightest, tiniest inconvenience, but somehow everything manages to go wrong anyway. So you essentially win the lottery of bad luck, and the kids manage to come up with this crazy plan, and it just so happens to be the only plan they could have ever possibly conceived that would have forced you to release the water prison that was currently keeping Kakashi held in place. So one kid, who is actually a shadow clone, but you don't know that because you thought you killed all of his shadow clones, reaches into his bag, pulls out a big demon wind shuriken, and throws it to his friend. His friend then throws the demon wind shuriken at you, not at your water clone, but at you, and you find this to be a minor inconvenience, but with your free hand you manage to catch it. But as it turns out, the two kids were pretty clever, and they hid a second shuriken in the shadow of the first. No big deal for you, though. You are Zabuza, and you managed to jump over this second shuriken, no problem. Then this shuriken transforms into the first kid, who, as you are just now finding out, was actually a shadow clone when he threw the shuriken out of his bag. And then he throws a kunai at you and forces you to take your arm out of the water prison, and just like that, everything's ruined. Gotta deal with Kakashi again. You might not be able to kill the bridge builder anymore. Your whole day has just been turned to poop. So then imagine after all this that Kakashi starts stealing your jutsu with no warning. And now you were sort of prepared for this. He's called the copy ninja after all.
Then he's psyching you out.
You weren't ready for him to start using your jutsu at the same time as you before he's even seen them. Like, he is weaving his hand seals in sync with you, and then before you know it, he's finishing your sentences too. By this point, you probably just want to kill yourself. Just a couple seconds ago, you were having the best day ever, and now all of a sudden everything's going as badly as it possibly could be. So when you look at it like that, hopefully you can see why Kakashi was able to make Zabuza look like a doofus using his Sharingan and make it look really, really easy. I don't think it was necessarily due to a difference in skill and power, though that was certainly an aspect of it, but it had a lot more to do with an almost unseen psychological aspect of the fight that Kakashi recognized and immediately took advantage of. Had Zabuza been able to think more clearly and not just been so unbelievably angry, maybe he would have been able to see through Kakashi's attempts to use Genjutsu on him, or just generally speaking, I feel like he would have realized that something was going on. If he was in his best, like, peak state of mind, I doubt the Sharingan would have been nearly as effective against him as it was, and this is all supported by the fact that he's so much more confident that he can deal with the Sharingan during his second encounter with Kakashi on the Great Naruto Bridge. Now that its surprise factor has worn off, he doesn't seem nearly as intimidated by it. So like I was saying, I think it was a lot more due to circumstance than, like, an actual difference in ability between the two, and maybe it took me a bit too long to explain all of that, but I just thought it was really important to get it out there that even though it may have looked like it, Kakashi wasn't that much stronger than Zabuza at the time. Now this does sort of change towards the end of the fight on the Great Naruto Bridge, because after Haku dies, Kakashi just starts going to town on Zabuza. Like, it's really bad and really blatant. Like, it's not like Kakashi gets a little bit of an upper hand.
He's just like, right, okay, forget everything you can do.
Stops having a chance of victory, like, outright. And at this point, it does definitely feel like Kakashi is the superior fighter. Now, I don't think that this is evidence that Kakashi is just, like, outright way stronger than Zabuza. I think this was the result of, like, a snowball effect of him slowly accumulating momentum and an advantage over the course of the fight. With all of this information on the table, I am open to being persuaded to believe otherwise. Maybe Kakashi was just way stronger than Zabuza all along, but, like, he did get caught in the water prison jutsu, so, you know, it's kind of iffy. But regardless, I don't think it makes an enormous difference, so I think it'd just be best to move on. Now, there is some other stuff that I wanted to bring up. Later on, we also find out that Zabuza is supposedly weaker than Haku. This is according to him. It comes directly from his mouth, and it's also implied implied that Haku is stronger than Kakashi too. Now, to be fair, it is just a statement, so its value and importance is questionable, especially since we're talking about Naruto. Part 1 Naruto specifically, where statements get retconned and contradicted all the time. But it is still worth bringing up, because, like, that's pretty major if it's true. Even Kid Sasuke, and this is one of the weakest versions of Sasuke we ever see, was shown to be way faster than Haku. Now, maybe Haku's strong suit wasn't his speed, but I mean, I don't know, Zabuza seemed pretty surprised that Sasuke was moving faster than him. Like, to paraphrase him, he says something along the lines of, Haku's losing in a battle of speed, which implies that he either doesn't see that happen very often or he's never seen it before. Me personally, I'm much more comfortable with the idea that either Zabuza didn't know what he was talking about, or Kishimoto just didn't know what he was talking about, because if Haku is stronger than Kakashi, then that means that Naruto, in his, like, weakest Nine-Tails form, is way stronger than Kakashi. Because, as I'm sure everybody remembers, when Naruto first tapped into Kurama's chakra, he just, like, curb-stomped Haku really badly. And I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think I could see this Naruto winning in a fight against Kakashi. I mean, maybe he could. I am bringing this up for a reason, after all, but it just seems so weird. Now, to be fair, it is sort of implied that this Naruto is actually stronger than Kakashi. I mean, that's not necessarily what's being said. Zabuza says something along the lines of Naruto's chakra is way bigger than Kakashi's. And now this is kind of weird by itself, because I don't think Zabuza's a sensory type, but regardless, there are multiple things that this could mean. This could just be like a DBZ power level sensing moment, where Zabuza's just like, yeah, Naruto is stronger than Kakashi, that's kind of crazy. Or because Haku makes kind of a big deal about the fact that Naruto's chakra is, like, visible all of a sudden. It could just mean that Zabuza can just, like, feel the sheer pressure being created by Naruto's chakra, and, like, maybe he can tell that Naruto has way more of it at his disposal than Kakashi does. And that doesn't exactly mean Naruto is stronger, because, like, we've known that Naruto has a bigger chakra supply than Kakashi does for quite a while at this point in the series. When Kakashi was teaching Team 7 about chakra control, like they were doing the run up the tree by focusing chakra into your feet exercise, he does mention that Naruto's chakra supply is, like, way bigger than his. And this is also without even taking Kurama into consideration. So, you know, more chakra doesn't automatically equate to more power. But it is a really weird statement, to be sure. I guess you can interpret it however you want to, because it's kind of hard to tell exactly what it means. But, yeah, just so everybody knows, at this point, there is a fairly strong possibility that Haku and Naruto were both stronger than Kakashi. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say about the Land of Waves arc, so let's move on to everything else that we find out in part 1. Now, there isn't much of it, like I said at the beginning of the video. We do learn that he is weak to Orochimaru and Itachi, but that's not saying much, because a lot of characters are weaker than Orochimaru and Itachi. But we find out some other somewhat important information that paints a pretty clear picture of how strong he's supposed to be. Like,
doesn't he say that, like, he's so glad he didn't have to fight him
4 times a day? And that's not exactly groundbreaking information, because all it tells us is he doesn't have a lot of stamina or chakra, which we find out in the Land of Waves arc after seeing him bedridden from using the Sharingan very briefly. But we also get to see him take out a bunch of Chunin level fighters like it's nothing when working alongside Guy. So that makes it fairly apparent that Kakashi is many pegs above an average Chunin. But the most important thing that I want to talk about, and this is the last thing that I'll discuss before the end of the video, is Orochimaru's statement about Kakashi and Kabuto being around the same level. Now, some of you may think that if this is true, it makes Kakashi seem kind of unimpressive, and like with the other statements, it's hard to say whether or not it is true, because it is a statement that came from part 1 of Naruto. Plenty of those get retconned later on in Shippuden. But if it is true, it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Kabuto was able to defeat Tsunade in a one-on-one fight.
Big deal.
And, yeah, this was only because he used, like, really advanced deadly medical ninjutsu against her. But if anything, that makes it even more impressive, because Tsunade's specialty is medical ninjutsu. So for Kabuto to essentially beat her at her own game, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I've never thought that Kabuto was, like, weak.
If Orochimaru was right about Kabuto and Kakashi
There's a reason Orochimaru keeps him around.
The same level of power and skill, that Kakashi would have an even easier time beating Tsunade in a fight, because he wouldn't be restricted to using a field of ninjutsu that his opponent is an expert in. That would make him somewhere somewhere around Hokage level, which is supported by the fact that Tsunade says later on in Shippuden that Kakashi would be a pretty good candidate for Hokage, but to be fair, this is after he has gotten significantly more powerful, so it's a bit hard to say. So like I said at the beginning of the video, it is very difficult to find a definitive place on a tier list for Part 1 Kakashi. We have some information that implies that he's Hokage level, we have other information that implies he's like baseline Jonin level, some stuff implies he's somewhere in between, and I don't want to assert my own opinion as if it's fact here, because I mean, it really is up to interpretation. There's so much conflicting information, and I can't blame you for coming to a conclusion that's entirely different from somebody else's, but luckily I will have a much easier time with all of this when I make my follow-up video about Shippuden Kakashi, because things are a lot more clear-cut once Shippuden rolls around. Until then, though, that's going to be all from me, so if you have any ideas for future video topics, leave them in the comments below, or shoot me a mention on Twitter. Thanks as always for watching the video all the way to the end. Make sure you have a great rest of the day, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. Swag Kage out. Bye.
Bye. Class. Some interesting, because I've never thought that Kabuto was weak, man. Like, the stuff he does against Tsunade is like, whoa, that's pretty damn cool. And considering, like, she's one of the best mythical ninjas out there, and he, like, outclasses her, it's like, wow, it's impressive. And Orochimaru kept him around. He was a, you know, he was worth having around. So to her say that Kakashi's as strong as him, I was always like, that's pretty damn cool. So yeah, that was cool. I can't wait to see his one about Kakashi and Shippuden. That's going to be boss, because he's got some impressive stuff going on in that one. I mean, he goes up against Pain, using Kamui against Deidara, and I can never think of things on the top of my head, but he's got some impressive stuff going on. Oh, especially the perfect Susanoo that he has at the end as well. It's like, whoa. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below, let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. See all you guys next time.